I stood trembling in the vibrant chaos of Munich's Sommerfest, my voice raw as I shouted into the humid night. Markus, you've been lying to me for 7 years. Hiding who you are. How dare you call this love? The words tore from my chest, sharp and jagged, slicing through the festival's lively accordion melodies and the clink of beer steins. Lanterns cast flickering shadows across my face, my hazel eyes blazing with betrayal as I watched Markus, my husband of 7 years, sway on the dance floor, his arms wrapped around another man. The crowd's laughter and the scent of grilled bratwurst faded into a distant hum as my world shattered. For months, I'd felt cracks creeping into our marriage, cryptic texts, late nights he called work, a phone he guarded like a vault, but nothing prepared me for this. Markus was bisexual. A truth he'd buried since we met. And his lover was Stefan, a man whose betrayal of our friend Hannah deepened the wound like salt in a cut. This is my story, a raw confession of heartbreak, resilience, and the lessons I learned at 33 to rebuild from the ashes of deception. Woven with the threads of my past, my city, and the strength I found to rise again. I'm Lena, a 33-year-old associate at Braun & Kessler, Munich's premier law firm, where my ambition burned bright, forged in late-night case files and high-stakes corporate deals. Markus, 30, was my safe harbor, an event planner whose love for Bavarian culture, its folk songs, its lederhosen-clad festivals, its hearty pretzels, drew me in like a moth to a flame. We met 9 years ago at a dimly lit jazz club in Schwabing, where cigarette smoke curled like secrets and saxophone notes hung heavy in the air. I was 24, a law student licking the wounds of a brutal breakup with Paul, a finance bro who'd cheated with a coworker, leaving me questioning my worth. Markus, 21 then, was a whirlwind of charm, his laugh cutting through my defenses, his blue eyes honest and warm. He listened as I rambled about tort law over cheap wine, and by the end of the night, I was smitten. We married 2 years later, young and reckless, and welcomed our son, Elias, now 5, a bright-eyed kindergarten kid with Markus's curls and my stubborn streak. Our Sendeling apartment, with its creaky wooden floors, exposed brick walls, and Markus's chaotic collection of festival posters, was our sanctuary, a patchwork of dreams we stitched together. But over the past year, those dreams unraveled, thread by thread. It started subtly, like a melody played off-key. Markus's late nights at work stretched longer, his phone buzzing with texts he'd tilt away from me, his jackets carrying the sharp scent of cedarwood cologne I didn't recognize. He'd joined a gym in Maxvorstadt but never went, his membership card pristine in his wallet, a prop for a story I couldn't read. I'm a lawyer, I notice patterns. Catalog details, his locked phone, his vague excuses about client dinners, his distracted glances during our weekend coffee runs to Café Glockenspiel, where we'd sit under the Marienplatz chimes, Elias giggling over his hot chocolate. I scoured his emails when he left his laptop open, checked his Google Calendar for unmarked meetings, even hired Klaus, a grizzled ex-cop turned investigator, expecting to uncover a woman's name, a secret rendezvous, anything. Klaus tailed him for weeks, delivering a thin report. No women, no meetings. Maybe he's just stressed, but my gut screamed otherwise. A restless instinct honed by years of cross-examining witnesses. The absence of evidence felt like chasing a ghost, and it haunted me, waking me at 3 a.m. to stare at the ceiling. Markus's soft snores beside me, a cruel reminder of the man I thought I knew. I grew up in a small village near Augsburg, raised by a single mother who worked double shifts as a nurse to keep our tiny flat warm. Mama's mantra was my compass. Lena, a woman of strength never tolerates deceit. Hold your worth high and live with honor. She'd say it over breakfast, her hands calloused from hospital shifts, her eyes fierce with love. I carried her words to Munich, through law school, through Paul's betrayal, into my marriage with Markus. But now, at 33, those words felt like a challenge I wasn't sure I could meet. Markus and I had built a life, Elias's crayon drawings on the fridge, our Friday movie nights with popcorn fights, our plans for a bigger home where Elias could have a yard. I didn't want to lose it, but the cracks were spreading, and I couldn't ignore them. The storm broke on a sticky July evening. When my firm dropped a bombshell. A €50 million merger negotiation with a Berlin tech startup. Critical for my shot at partner. Was scheduled for Saturday. Clashing with the Sommerfest. Markus had spent 6 months planning the festival for Hannah's Cultural Foundation, a nonprofit she'd built to preserve Bavarian traditions. Hannah, 31, was my law school roommate, a firecracker who'd faced a neurological disorder that confined her to a wheelchair for 2 years. Her ex, Stefan, had bailed during her recovery, too weak to handle her illness, leaving her broken until Lucas, a soft-spoken playwright, brought her back to life. The Sommerfest at the Resienwies was a love letter to Bavaria, zither players strumming folk tunes, women in hand-stitched dirndls, stalls piled with salty pretzels, and a celebration of Hannah's engagement to Lucas. A testament to her resilience. Markus, who'd known Hannah since their school days in Phrasing, was her right-hand man, weaving every detail into a masterpiece: accordion bands, craft booths, a dance floor under a starry tent. I knew how much it meant to him, how he'd spent late nights sketching layouts, charming sponsors, practicing his MC speech in our bathroom mirror. But I couldn't skip Berlin. The client, Ms. Fischer, a sharp-tongued tech CEO, trusted me after months of prep. And the deal's bonus, a 6-figure sum, would let us buy a proper home for Elias. Maybe near the Isar River. Standing in our kitchen, apple strudel crumbs scattered on the counter. A tram rattling outside our window. I said, Markus, I'm so sorry. This merger is huge for us. For Elias, I'll be back Sunday to celebrate with you. My voice was heavy, pleading for understanding. His face darkened, blue eyes flashing. You're ditching me, Lena? I'll be alone at the festival I poured my soul into. Do you know how humiliating that is? Can't someone else go? His words cut like a blade, sharp and personal, as if I'd betrayed him. I tried to explain. Ms. Fischer needed me. The bonus was for our future, but he turned away. His shoulders rigid, he stormed to the balcony, slamming the glass door so hard I flinched. That night, he banished me to the guest room. His coldness a shock. The Markus I loved, the one who'd dance with Elias to ABBA, who'd leave sticky notes on my briefcase saying, "You've got this." Superstar, was gone. Lying awake, the guest bed springs creaking. I traced our cracks, his secretive calls, his new obsession with privacy, the way he'd flinch when I touched his phone. I'd sensed trouble for months. But this felt like a chasm. Defeated, I packed for Berlin, the distant cheer of a Biergarten down the street mocking our discord, its laughter a cruel echo of what we'd lost. Friday morning, I knocked on our locked bedroom door, my suitcase by my side, Elias's stuffed bunny tucked under my arm for comfort. Markus, I love you. I'll call when I land in Berlin, I said, my voice soft but firm. Silence answered me, cold and heavy, heart sinking. I took an Uber to Munich airport, the Frauenkirche's domes fading in the rearview mirror as I grappled with his resentment. After 7 years, I expected him to understand, to see my career as part of our shared dream. I called him before boarding, then texted after landing in Berlin. But he didn't reply. Panic tightened my chest, a knot I couldn't untie. I called my sister, Katja, 35, who was watching Elias at her flat in Giesing. Katja, I'm worried he's shutting me out. Can you check on him? I asked, my voice trembling. Katja, a graphic designer with a no-nonsense streak, promised, I'll swing by after Elias's nap. Lena, focus on your deal. Love you. Her steady tone was a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge. In Berlin, I checked into a sleek hotel near Alexanderplatz. Its minimalist decor, glass walls, chrome fixtures, feeling sterile compared to the warmth of our cluttered apartment. I called my supervising partner, Sabine, to confirm the negotiation schedule, only to learn Ms. Fischer had caught a sudden flu, postponing the talks to next week. Relief flooded me like a warm tide. I could surprise Markus at the Sommerfest. Mend our rift, show him I cared. The festival started at 5 p.m. And with a 3 p.m. flight, I could reach the Resienwies by 7:30. I booked a return ticket, rented a zippy Fiat at Munich airport, and drove the 45 Kana foot route to the festival grounds. my heart lifting at the thought of Markus's grin under the twinkling lights. His tracktan jacket crisp, his anger softening as we danced together. The Resienwies was a kaleidoscope of joy. Thousands in lederhosen and dirndls swayed to zither and accordion melodies, their laughter mingling with the smoky scent of bratwurst and the tang of fresh pretzels. Children darted between stalls, clutching gingerbread hearts iced with "I heart München," while couples clinked steins in sprawling beer tents, their voices rising in drunken toasts. I parked near the Bavaria statue, its bronze silhouette looming over the grounds, and swapped my blazer for a simple cotton dress to blend into the crowd. At a stall, I ordered a Hellas beer, its crisp bite grounding my nerves as I scanned for Markus. I pictured him by the main stage, emceeing with that infectious charm, maybe hoisting a stein with Hannah, his smile wide as he introduced her foundation. The thought sparked hope, a chance to stitch us back together, to remind him we were a team. Then I saw him, not at the stage, but at a secluded wooden table near a quiet tent, his head bent close to another man. Stefan, my breath caught, sharp and cold. Stefan, 32, was an architect and guest speaker for Hannah's foundation, a polished charmer with a history of cowardice. He'd abandoned Hannah during her illness, walking out when she needed him most, a betrayal that left her shattered until Lucas rebuilt her trust. I knew Stefan through Hannah, had seen him at her fundraisers, his slick smile masking a spine I didn't respect. Seeing Markus laugh with him, their heads inches apart, hit me like a fist to the gut. I stepped behind a pretzel stall, my pulse hammering. The vendor's call, Brezen, frisch gebacken, barely registering. I watched them, hidden by the crowd. Markus, in fitted lederhosen, looked radiant, his hand brushing Stefan's arm, a casual intimacy that made my stomach churn. Stefan, in a tailored tracktan jacket, leaned in, their laughter a private melody, oblivious to the festival's roar. Why was Markus so comfortable with him? My mind raced, piecing together fragments. Stefan's history, Markus's secrecy, the cologne, the gym card. It didn't add up, but it felt wrong, a puzzle missing its center. Moments later, my world imploded. Markus stood, took Stefan's hand, and led him to the dance floor, the crowd parting as they swayed to a slow Volksmusik tune, the accordion's wail mocking my hope. Markus's hand rested on Stefan's waist, their bodies close, their smiles unguarded, as if the world had shrunk to just them. I gripped my beer, my knuckles white, praying it was just a dance, a festival-fueled moment, nothing more, but their prolonged closeness. The way Markus's fingers lingered on Stefan's back, his thumb tracing small circles, screamed otherwise. My heart pounded, a drumbeat of dread. I sank onto a nearby bench, the wooden slats cold against my thighs, and watched, unable to look away. Markus, tipsy and glowing, leaned in and kissed Stefan, his hands cupping Stefan's chest, their lips meeting with a tenderness I'd thought was mine alone. The public display, in front of Hannah's friends, was a violation of our vows, a dagger through the life we'd built. Markus was bisexual, a truth he'd hidden for 7 years. Through every vow, every late-night talk, every moment I'd trusted him. Worse, he'd chosen Stefan, whose betrayal of Hannah made this a double wound, a mockery of loyalty. Rage surged, hot and blinding, as Stefan's hands roamed Markus's back, their kisses deepening. Oblivious to the crowd, my mother's words rang clear. Lena, a woman of strength never tolerates deceit. Hold your worth high. I could have stormed over, yanked them apart, screamed until the festival stopped. But a chilling calm settled in, my lawyer's mind taking control. I pulled out my phone, zoomed in, and snapped a dozen photos. Then recorded a 20-second video, their faces unmistakable in the lantern glow. The accordion's wail a bitter soundtrack. My hands shook, but my resolve was steel. I opened our chat and typed, "Surprise. My meeting was cancelled. Came to support you. You're cozy with Stefan. I'm going home. Our marriage is over. Stay with him tonight. I'll be gone by morning." I hit send, my breath shallow, and watched from a distance as his phone lit up on the table. He glanced at it, his face draining of color, his eyes darting across the crowd, searching for me. I was already moving, weaving through the tents, past stalls selling Lebkuchen and felted hats, toward the exit. As I reached my car, his voice broke through the din. Desperate and raw. Lena. Wait. I turned, my stare cold as the Bavarian winter. Shook my head, and slid into the driver's seat. The engine roared, drowning his pleas as I pulled away. The Bavaria statue fading in my rearview mirror. Munich's skyline swallowing my past. My phone buzzed relentlessly as I drove through the city's quiet streets. Texts. Calls. Voicemails piling up. Lena. Please. I need to explain. I love you. I ignored them, my hands steady on the wheel despite the storm in my chest. I pulled into a 24-hour cafe in Schwabing. Its neon sign casting a soft glow on the cobblestones. The kind of place where students and insomniacs nursed coffees at 2 a.m. I ordered a black coffee. Its bitter heat grounding me. And sat at a corner table. The hum of a jukebox playing old German pop a faint distraction. Sipping slowly, I replayed the past year. Klaus had found no women because Markus's lover was a man. A truth I'd never suspected. Not in a million years. The pain of his hidden bisexuality, kept secret through every moment of our marriage, rivaled the sting of his infidelity. It wasn't just the kiss, the touch, it was the years of lies. The identity he'd buried, the trust he'd shattered. I opened my laptop, hands trembling, and changed my social media status from married to single. I posted, "Some truths break you, but they set you free. Moving forward with strength." The vague update sparked a flood of messages. Anna, my colleague. You okay? Lena, Marta, my law school friend. Here if you need me. My cousin Lena in Nuremberg. Call me. Please. Their words were a lifeline, pulling me from the abyss, reminding me I wasn't alone. I couldn't face our apartment yet, so I drove to a quiet street near the Nymphenburg Palace. Its gardens dark and serene. I reclined the car seat and dozed fitfully. Dreams of Markus's laugh twisting into Stefan's smirk. At dawn, Munich stirred under a pale pink sky. And I drove home, my eyes gritty, my heart heavy. My phone was a war zone. 25 texts. 12 missed calls. Voicemails I deleted unheard. I sent one reply. You hid who you are and chose Stefan. I'm climbing at work. Elias is safe. And I'm free to start over. Goodbye. Stepping into our apartment, I felt a hollow ache. The space, its creaky floors. The fridge covered in Elias's crayon drawings. Markus's posters of past festivals. Was a museum of a life that no longer existed. I stood by the kitchen counter, remembering our late-night dances to Nina Simone. Markus spinning me until we collapsed laughing. The memory stung, and I sobbed, the sound echoing in the empty flat. Raw but cleansing, like rain after a drought. I knew I had to rebuild, and I approached it like a case. Methodical and deliberate, each step a brick in a new foundation. First, I protected my heart. I drove to Englischer Garten that morning, finding a secluded bench by the icebox stream. Its icy rush drowning my thoughts. I let myself cry, not just for Markus, but for the version of myself who'd trusted him blindly. The girl who'd believed in forever. I called Dr. Eva Braun, my therapist from my post-Paul days, booking an emergency session for Monday. I feel like he was a stranger. I told her over the phone, my voice cracking. Eva urged me to anchor myself in my strengths, to write them down. That night, in a leather notebook I kept by my bed, I listed my career, associate, on track for partner, Elias, my light, my reason, my grit. I survived Paul. I'll survive this. I wrote affirmations. I am enough. His lies don't define me. I made it a ritual, scribbling every evening, a shield against the pain. It wasn't easy. Some nights, I'd stare at the page, tears blurring the ink, but it kept me grounded. A reminder that I was more than this betrayal. Next, I secured my future, my lawyer's instincts kicking in. Back in the apartment, I sat at our dining table, papers spread out like a battle map. We rented our Sendeling flat, €1.800 a month. But our joint savings held €20, scraped together from my bonuses and Markus's festival gigs. My €120 salary covered rent, Elias's daycare, our groceries, Markus's €50 added comforts, weekend trips to the Alps. Elias's soccer camp. I'd split the savings evenly. Giving Markus €10 to start over. My promotion to partner. Tied to the Berlin merger. Promised a €500 bonus. A windfall safe from any divorce settlement since it was post-separation. Markus would keep his beat-up Vespa. His only asset besides clothes and a battered guitar. I called Lena, my law school friend turned divorce lawyer, who was 34 and fierce as ever. I want this clean. Lena, I said, emailing her the photos and video as evidence. He gets €10. The scooter. Nothing else. I need to protect Elias's future. She promised to draft terms by Monday. Her voice a mix of sympathy and steel. I leaned on my people, knowing I couldn't do this alone. I called Jonas, Markus's older brother, a 36-year-old nurse who'd always been my ally. His calm demeanor a contrast to Markus's fire. He humiliated me at Hannah's festival. With Stefan of all people. I said, my voice steady but laced with pain. I sent him the photos and video. My proof undeniable. Jonas, stunned, said, Lena, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. He backed my decision to leave, promising to talk Markus down if he spiraled. I called Katya, who was with Elias at her place. Markus chose this. Katya, he hid his bisexuality, betrayed me. I'm leaving, but I'm here for Elias. I said, choking back tears. Katya, fierce, said, you're stronger than this. Lena, Elias is fine, and I've got your back. I joined a women's support group in Glockenbachviertel, a cozy cafe where young moms, divorcees, and survivors met weekly, sharing my story, haltingly at first, then with fire, eased the weight. Anna, my colleague, dragged me to yoga at Victualianmarkt, her dry humor cutting through my fog. Marta, now a journalist, sent a care package, wine, novels, a note. You're a badass. Lena, keep going. My cousin Lena called from Nuremberg, offering her guest room if I needed escape. Their support, like Munich's cobblestones, held me up when I wanted to crumble. I set boundaries, carving out space to heal. I moved to a firm-owned studio in Maxvorstadt, a bright loft with a skylight that caught the morning sun. A 15-minute bike ride from the office. I told Sabine, my supervising partner, a 40-year-old mentor with a sharp mind, to block Markus from my workplace, ensuring he couldn't ambush me. I gave Lena full control of divorce communications. When Markus sent a tearful email begging to meet, I had Lena reply, your secrecy and infidelity ended our marriage. Focus on your path. I'm building mine. I blocked his number for a month, redirecting his calls to voicemail, and told Katya to keep Elias's visits with Markus separate from me. It wasn't about punishment, it was about peace. About giving myself room to breathe. I faced my mistakes. The hardest step. In therapy, I admitted I'd been a workaholic. My 60-hour weeks leaving Markus on the sidelines. I'd ignored his quiet moods, his late-night pacing, assuming our love was bulletproof. I didn't ask enough questions. I told Eva, my voice heavy, I didn't make space for his truth. She had me write a letter to my 24-year-old self. The girl who'd fallen for Markus. Forgiving her for trusting too blindly. I realized trust is a two-way street, built on vulnerability, and I'd failed to pave my side. The lesson stung, but it shaped me, a promise to listen deeper in whatever came next. I rediscovered myself, piece by piece. I started cycling along the Isar River again. The wind in my hair a reminder of the girl who'd once raced her bike through Augsburg's fields. Fearless, I joined a book club at a Heidhausen bookstore, diving into Zadie Smith's sharp wit and Toni Morrison's soul-deep prose. Their women mirroring my own fight. I wandered the Pinnacothek der Moderne, losing myself in Klimt's golden swirls and Nolda's stormy seas, each painting a spark of who I could be. I took Elias to the Deutsches Museum, his eyes wide at the model trains, his laughter healing me. These moments, small, deliberate, rebuilt my identity, reminding me I was more than a wife, more than a victim. Months later, I met Clara at a cycling meetup by the Isar. She was 29, a therapist with warm brown eyes and a laugh like dawn breaking. Her bike a battered red Schwinn that matched her carefree spirit. We stopped for coffee at Café Rischart, the Marienplatz bustling outside, and talked for hours, her breakup with a controlling ex, my betrayal, our shared love of Munich's hidden corners. You're not shattered, Lena, she said, her hand brushing mine. You're rebuilding. And it's beautiful. Her words felt like sunlight. And we started seeing each other. Our dates simple but electric. Picnics in the Ostpark. Vinyl shopping in Glockenbachviertel. Late night talks on her balcony. Clara's empathy, her quiet strength, taught me trust could be rebuilt. One honest moment at a time. I'd been burning out at the firm. So I negotiated a reduced schedule. Trading billable hours for purpose. I launched *Horizont*, a pro bono legal clinic in Oheidhausen. A storefront with mismatched chairs and a coffee machine that never worked right. It served refugees, domestic violence survivors, queer youth, people like me, rebuilding from their own storms. I mentored young lawyers, teaching them to listen as much as they argued, to serve with heart. At *Horizont's opening, I stood before a small crowd, Clara, Katya, Elias clapping wildly, and said, "Betrayal forged my strength. This clinic is for anyone rising from their own ashes." My voice shook, but my resolve didn't, and when Elias ran up to hug me, his tiny arms tight, I knew I'd found my calling. Markus moved to Berlin with Stefan, his festival gigs drying up as word of the Sommerfest scandal spread. He sent a letter through Lena. "I've always been bisexual but buried it. Terrified of losing you. Stefan was a drunken mistake. Not love. I was angry you weren't there. I'm so sorry." I read it alone in my studio. The words heavy but too late. I didn't respond, letting Lena finalize the divorce. Markus got €10, his Vespa. A clean break. Signing the papers soon after. I kept custody of Elias, with Markus getting weekend visits. A schedule Katya helped enforce to keep things smooth. At Elias's kindergarten graduation, Markus showed up, looking worn, his eyes shadowed. He met Clara, saw me with Elias, who was thriving, his soccer jersey muddy from practice. My joy, Clara's hand in mine. Elias's chatter, contrasted with his quiet life with Stefan. Their Berlin flat a far cry from our old dreams. I hid myself and broke us. Markus said, tears spilling. I held Elias's hand, his warmth grounding me, and forgave him, not for him, but for me. Your choices led me to Clara. I said, build your life. Markus, be there for Elias. Clara joined us, her smile easing the tension. And we parted civilly, a fragile truce for our son's sake. I kept reflecting, peeling back layers of my own failures. I'd been so consumed by work, by my drive to make partner, that I'd left Markus feeling invisible. I'd dismissed his late-night silences, his growing distance, assuming our love was unshakable. I didn't listen enough. I told Clara one night, the moonlight soft through our window. I assumed he'd always be open. Clara, wise beyond her 29 years, said, you're learning, Lena, that's what matters. I vowed presence. Weekly picnics with Elias in the West Park. Date nights with Clara at our favorite Italian spot in Schwabing. Cheering at Elias's soccer games until my voice gave out. I wanted to be there. Fully. For the people I loved. My childhood in Augsburg, those cold mornings with Mama's fierce love, taught me resilience. But I'd carried her warnings about deceit too tightly. Building walls that kept even Markus out. I'd been so focused on proving myself, at law school, at the firm, that I'd forgotten to be vulnerable. To ask Markus what he was hiding. That lesson hit hardest when Elias, now a lanky kid, asked why I'd left his dad. We were at the Olympia Park, tossing a frisbee, the summer air thick with cut grass. Your dad hid who he was. Elias, I said, choosing honesty. He's bisexual, and he didn't tell me. He was with someone else. And it broke our trust. But I didn't listen enough either. I was too busy with work. Elias nodded, thoughtful, and said, you're here now, Mom, that's what counts. His words healed a wound I didn't know I carried. And I hugged him, his frame solid in my arms. Markus found purpose in Berlin, volunteering with an LGBTQ+ youth group, helping kids navigate their identities. At a family picnic in our Heidhausen garden, Elias grilling sausages. Clara laughing. He shared his work over pretzels and Weissbier. I'm trying to be honest now, he said quietly, his eyes softer than I'd seen in years. I smiled, seeing his growth. We both learned. Markus, let's be here for Elias. Clara and Elias laughed nearby, his giggle echoing, and I felt peace, a deep, steady calm. My mother's words, "Hold your worth," merged with mine. Truth heals. And presence builds. Horizont grew, serving hundreds, migrants needing asylum papers, women escaping abusive partners, teens kicked out for their identity. I trained lawyers, young and hungry like I'd been, teaching them to fight for clients who had no one else. Elias loved visiting the clinic, handing out pencils to kids in the waiting room. His pride in me a quiet gift. My family, Clara, Elias, and I, thrived in our Heidhausen flat, its walls painted in bright yellows and blues. Elias's choice, Markus, still with Stefan, stayed in Berlin, his life stable but muted. He'd started working with a small theater group, planning their events, but the spark he'd had in Munich was gone. At a school event, he sat in the back, clapping for Elias, his smile tinged with regret. I invited him for coffee afterward. A neutral cafe near the school. "I see what I lost," he said, stirring his espresso. "I'm trying to be better." For Elias, I nodded. No anger left. We both made mistakes. "Markus, let's be good parents," he agreed, and we parted, a fragile peace settling between us. I kept growing, shaped by my past. My family, Clara, Elias, and I, was my anchor. Horizont was my purpose. A beacon for those rebuilding. My story, born from betrayal, became one of triumph. Proof that truth, held fiercely, can heal even the deepest wounds. From broken trust, I rose with purpose, and that was enough.